Welcome, everyone. Great to see you. Thanks for joining us today. Let us know in the chat where you are zooming in from. So while we have everybody joining, thanks for joining us today. Okay, we got Cambridge and New York. Got it. Yeah, New York, Seattle. Excellent. Chile, welcome. Brooklyn and Uruguay. Great to see everybody. Oh, Kenya, excellent. Hello, Lima. We just had one of our admissions officers was in Lima just this weekend, I think. Maryland, New York, great. Venezuela, excellent. Good to see everybody. We'll get started here in just a minute. All right. All right, if you're just joining us, feel free to let us know where you're joining us from in the chat. We're glad to have you here today. If you wish, please feel free to keep your camera on. It's up to you if you're in a place where you can do that. Otherwise, we'll get a chance to maybe meet you in the breakout rooms, or the students will in the second half of this event. All right, I think we are at critical mass, so we will go ahead and get started. Welcome, everybody. My name is Diana Economy, and I am a senior admissions advisor for the Yale SOM admissions team. Great to see all of you here today. I'm really excited about the session that we have and the students that we have here to be able to talk to you today about your experiences and their experiences as Hispanic and Latinx students here at Yale SOM. So we are going to start with some introductions. Before we do that, what I'll let you know is that this first part will be recorded. So we have some of your pre-submitted questions, and we're going to start with some of those, as well as other questions that we know prospective students have as top of mind. We're going to go for about 25 or 30 minutes. After that point, we will stop the recording, and you will have a chance to go into breakout rooms with our students to ask them questions. You can choose which breakout room you wish and learn a little bit more about their experiences in a smaller environment. So with that, we will start with our introductions. Christian, we'll go to you.
Bienvenidos, everyone. Christian Avila here, originally from West Palm Beach, Florida. Went to Boston College for undergrad, and for the next 5.5 years worked in healthcare tech. Decided to pursue an MBA to pivot over to healthcare strategy. So this past summer, just finished my internship at Strategy N, part of the PwC network, where I intend on signing with them because of good news I recently received. And yeah, moved here to New Haven from Boston with my wife. So happy to talk about that experience. And in terms of the clubs I'm involved in, that includes American Latina Business Association, ALBA, the Christian Fellowship, and the newly formed Artificial Intelligence Group. So welcome, everyone. So I'll pass it off to Kim.
Hi, everybody. I'm Kim Rosa Perez. I'm originally from Glendale, Arizona. Super excited to be here. For undergrad, I actually went over to the East Coast, so that was my first time experiencing a lot of the cold weather. And I'll share that New Haven is very similar as well. I went to Swarthmore College. I majored in economics and Spanish, and then ended up starting off my career at Accenture. I was there for about four years. And decided that I wanted to pursue an MBA about halfway through so that I could pivot into tech. And luckily, I was able to get an internship in operations and business strategy at Adobe. So that's where I was this summer. Currently in SF. Similar to Christian, I am involved in ALBA, so the American Latin Business Association. I'm also involved with the First Gen Club, and I'm currently doing a research assistant position with the Inclusive Economic Development Lab with a professor here on campus. So if any of you have any questions about any of those things, would be happy to answer. I'll popcorn Malcolm.
Hi, everyone. My name is Malcolm Cardona Spence. I'm originally from Hollywood, Florida, first generation college students. My mom's from Colombia, my father's from Jamaica. And in undergrad, I went to FIU in Miami. I started my career in the credit space, doing credit risk management, transitioned to the nonprofit space, did a lot of small business development work, helping low income minority owned businesses in Miami. Came to SOM last year, and it's been a great experience so far. Also involved in ALBA, Black Business Alliance, um, SOM United Soccer Club, and a lot of other things on campus. So happy to talk about my experience. And I'll pass it to Axel.
Hey everyone, thanks for being with us on a Monday morning / afternoon. My name is Axel Gomez. I'm born and raised in Houston, Texas, but my parents are from Central America. My mom is from El Salvador. My dad is from Guatemala. I've lived in Houston all my life. So living in New Haven for business school is the first time I've lived outside of Houston. I went to undergrad at the University of Houston, majored in finance and accounting, and then spent the next 6 years of my life working in the energy industry, mainly in oil and gas, but also in power and utilities. And the reason I'm in business school is to, get out of oil and gas and focus more on energy transition type work. So I spent this summer at EY Parthenon and hoping to get the same news that Christian just got. We're supposed to find out this week regarding return offers. So at SOM, I'm involved in ALBA, but also Energy Club. So yeah, I'm happy to answer any questions regarding the business school application process.
Excellent. Thanks, Axel. We're rooting for you too, buddy. I hope you get some good news this week. So thanks. Why don't we get into it? So thank you all for those of you that submitted your questions in advance. We want to make sure we get to some of those. So Christian, why don't we start with you? Can you tell us, how did SOM make you feel welcome when you began? And is it a place that you'd choose again?
Yes, it was a place I would definitely choose again. The way I'll break it up is, thinking about what is SOM. So we have the students, we have the administration, and we have the professors. So let's start with the students. Joining SOM, I really feel welcomed by both the second years as well as my peers. With the second years, it was through mentorship opportunities, right? Within what's called cohorts here. And so within your class of 70 people, you'll spend the majority, almost all of your first year with through the core curriculum. And, basically it's like the second year, so we're in the same cohort as you. And then secondly, with my peers, it was like almost virtually every person I met, was very friendly and wanting to get to know more of my background, where did I come from, what I'm interested in. And so I definitely felt welcome there, made some good friends, including those on this call. And so there's the students. For the administration, that's just more of like, they really take into consideration, where you come from, what skills and experiences you bring when designing the not only the cohort that you find yourself in, but more specifically the what's called learning teams and small groups of like four people for small groups, and then like 8 people for the learning team, where you spend a majority of your doing projects and classwork with. And because there's a great consideration, and so like you'll be working with people from like different backgrounds and different personalities, and so they really take into consideration like who you are, right? And then thirdly, it's the professors. Like they were very welcoming, and open, especially like I remember our innovator professor Tristan Botello. He had like he would have pizza lunches where we would just just connect with him and get to know him more personally, beyond the classroom. So
I love it. And Christian, just because you mentioned your innovator professor, can you kind of briefly talk about just how your academics in your first year were laid out? Because it is a pretty unique way of doing things. Can you talk about the classes briefly?
Yeah, for sure. So Yale SOM's mission is to educate leaders for business and society. And to achieve that, Yale really hinges upon the hypothesis from the stakeholder management perspective in terms of pursuing business where it's a win-win situation for both those who run business as well as those you're in society with, right? And so, given that in the stakeholder management perspective, it's considering all the various stakeholders that you find yourself in, right? Business isn't done in a vacuum. And so given that Yale structured itself with this core curriculum, right, from customer to to competitor, to state and society, to innovator, so that you can better appreciate from that perspective the multifaceted environment that you'll find yourself in after business school, and also with the hope, of course, of living out that mission of educating leaders for business and society. So being there for business and society.
Very cool. And I imagine that having a really diverse, rich classroom environment just brings even more value to those conversations of the various stakeholders. Thanks for that add-on there. Kim, how how has your identity impacted your experience at Yale?
Yeah. So I forgot to mention earlier, so my family is from Guatemala. I grew up in California and Arizona. So I think I had that dual experience of, okay, what does it mean to be American, but what does it also mean to identify with my Central American roots? And so coming to SOM, I would say it was really important for me to find that Latino community. I was fortunate to come in through MLT. If any of you on the call are familiar with it, they're a program that focuses on Latinx and Black students and getting them into the business program. So I had that community originally coming in. I actually met Axel through that community, I believe early on in like April when we first did our admit weekend, and then later on met Christian and Malcolm. So that for me was important. Business school is an opportunity for you to meet people from all different walks of life, but I also needed that base, that foundation. So grateful for those networks. And then a big thing that I wanted to mention is Yale University has an intercultural center. They have multiple intercultural centers, but one that I wanted to connect with early on was La Casa, and that brings all of the Latino Yale undergrads and also graduate students together. And we're actually, as Alba, we're trying to collaborate with La Casa, especially now that Hispanic Heritage Month is coming up. So Diana, to answer your question, I would say my identity has made me very excited to try to connect with people from these very similar backgrounds at Yale. And I've also tried to tap into the Office of Inclusion and Diversity. I've met some really great people there that really want to help us feel supported. And so that's a little taste of it. If people want to learn more, happy to chat more about it during the breakout room.
Thanks, Kim. And I know that you applied to Yale through the consortium too, right? So the consortium is another avenue to both explore MBA programs, including Yale, as well as to get to know your peers. Kim, can you talk a little bit about the consortium orientation program and just some of the early stages and things that helped you maybe start to form some of the community here?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, so I did like an MLT program around May timeframe, and then I did the consortium OP. I would say that happened in May. That was helpful just to get familiar with different people that I was probably going to be very close with in the upcoming year. They did a lot of interview prep or resume prep with us. And we also did a lot of activities to get to know one another. And so I would say I felt like I came in with an advantage because I got to campus and there were all these different people that I could already say hello to or catch up with and just hear more about their summer. So if any of you are applying through consortium, highly encourage it. I think it just allows you to have a bit of an advantage with building community and also helps with recruiting later on.
Does anybody else want to share anything about how your identity has played a role during your experience of your time here at SOM?
I can just add on to the consortium piece because I found about consortium back in high school, and I didn't realize, well, I did realize it was like a potential, but actually going through the process, it really streamlined the application whole process for me and allowed me. There's like a scholarship opportunity alongside with it. So definitely something to consider if you're still in the application process. But through consortium, as it is a diversity network, I was able to really really build bonds. Like we met a lot of each other during the admit weekend once we all got admitted, but going to the orientation program, I really got to build connections with folks from our school's cohort, and there's like 20 plus consortium schools. So students from all over the states at different schools, and really just connecting with people that have similar backgrounds, can identify with some of the spaces you come from, because you're entering institutions that aren't, if you look at the percentages, they're not completely diverse. So really being able to build those spaces and connect with the people that we relate to.
Great. Thanks, Malcolm. Yeah, definitely take a look at the consortium if it's not something you're familiar with already. There's a way to apply to SOM and other schools through the consortium, basically through one app with some specialization per school in terms of the kinds of essays that you need to submit. So what would happen is you actually wouldn't apply through Yale's regular admissions rounds. You would apply specifically through the consortium to SOM. So take a look at that information there. Thank you both. Malcolm, you mentioned that you're part of a lot of different student clubs and organizations. So like, what do these student clubs and organizations look like on campus, and how do they collaborate with one another?
Sure. So all the clubs are, open to join and kind of participate as little or as much as you like. I think SOM does a great job of giving us space to lead and really puts funding behind a lot of the clubs we do. So whenever we have event ideas, it really just takes submitting some tickets and making it happen. I'm a part of several different clubs that reflect my identity and things I like to do. And through those clubs, I've been able to really assert myself in different leadership positions that I hadn't even thought of until I joined the clubs. Like this upcoming year, I'll be co-chair of the Yale Black Venture Summit. So really building on diverse entrepreneurs in the VC space. I'm also part of the Council on Anti-Racism and Equity, which has a couple student chairs positions and allows for the school to really identify and understand what challenges in the diversity space that we may be facing and how to continue to build equity and inclusion on campus. So I'd say that the clubs just give you space to really find things that help you feel at home in a sense. Find the things that you enjoy doing, the passions that you enjoy, kind of sustain them and kind of push them forward. So that's how clubs have impacted my experience.
Cool. Malcolm, you mentioned the Black Venture Summit. That's so cool that you're going to be kind of helping to, lead that this year. So for context, the students have classes Monday through Thursday. Friday is for a variety of things, including some of these professional development and engagement opportunities. Can you talk a little bit about kind of some of these summits or conferences or experiences, like how that brings the community together? And maybe I think it's a really good opportunity for collaboration, as you'd indicated.
Sure, yeah. So I'd say all the or most of the big professional clubs have some sort of conference throughout the year. So you have like the Venture Capital Summit, you have the Yale Black Venture Summit, you have different sort of like founder summits. You have the CARE Colloquium annually, or even I think twice a year we're doing it. So it's different spaces where professionals come from the community, a lot of alums come and tap in. People from all over different schools on campus, even nearby schools to the north or to the south, can come on campus and really dig into these different concepts and industries where there's great leaders speaking. We've had so many great speakers come over the past year since we've been here. So we heard from like Ken Griffin from Citadel. We heard from Ken Chenault from American Express. We heard, I'm really not doing justice to the long list of names there are, but definitely get excited for all the great leadership and areas where you can really build industry expertise here.
Love it. And Axel, how do you balance all of this? What does your experience look like? How do you navigate, being involved with these different things, and your academics, your studies? What does that look like?
Yeah, so I guess for additional context, I come from a low income background. So in the environment I grew up in, it was all about, put your head down and, just power through whatever comes your way. So my parents also instilled in me, a very strong work ethic. So coming into SOM and, seeing all this stuff that we were able to take on, all these opportunities that we could do, it was really difficult to kind of, I guess, balance it all. And I think what I had to learn is how to say no or how to ask for help whenever I'm overwhelmed. And so I think that's the biggest factor in terms of balancing, academics and also being involved in student clubs. One of the great aspects of ALBA is the fact that since we're a new student club, and in contrast to some of the more established student clubs, we kind of have more of an egalitarian approach of assigning roles and responsibility. So it's all about, who wants to step up and take care of whatever opportunities or ideas come our way in terms of implementation. And so it just comes down to understanding what's on your plate, what assignments you have to do within the next week or so, and gauging, whether you can take on additional responsibilities. So it all comes down to, one, kind of putting aside your, as a Latino, your work ethic, and instead saying, I'm overwhelmed right now. I have other things I have to power through, or asking for help whenever you feel overwhelmed.
Yeah, that's great to hear. And I think really good advice as you're prioritizing and navigating things. And I think for all of you listening today, as you're kind of prioritizing and navigating the application process and trying to think through which places and schools are going to be best for you, I think really talking to students about how they balance and what they're prioritizing and some of the things that are really important to them, and trying to find a place where you can resonate with some of those things and start to engage and connect. So along those lines, I want to get to our last question, which is going to give you just a little bit more context on SOM and the experience of our students here. And I want to hear from you students a little bit about either a favorite class or experience, something that you had over the course of the last year that was a standout. Christian, why don't we start with you?
Yes, and I would say for me, it's the international experience going to Israel for 2 weeks. And so just for context, uh, we have a global studies requirement for receiving the MBA, which can be which can be done in one of 4 ways, and the most popular way being the international experience. So essentially, you and give or take 30 other students and a professor would have a few lectures during spring one, and then for that spring break of 2 weeks, where we're off between spring one and spring two, you would go to that country, right? And so it's a very popular experience to pursue. You could take classes that could take you to Bhutan. They could take you to South Korea, take you to Costa Rica. And the one I chose was Israel. And I mean, that experience was incredible. Almost like a once in a lifetime chance, because our Professor Gal Zaberman, he's also from Israel, and he also co-teaches the customer core class. And so just overall lifelong memories I have because of that trip. So that one definitely sticks out for me. And also, by the way, my parents are from Honduras. We mentioned that earlier.
I can go next. So my isn't really a particular experience. It's just kind of more early on in the school year. I, was able to find my community of people that, I related to, whether it's because they were also from a low income background, also first gen, or are, understand the people of color experience in the US. And so with this community of people, we kind of just all banded together for the school year, kind of, went to events together, partied together. So these, it's really all just about the, lots of memories that we made together that I'm really going to reflect back on, especially once the MBA experience is over. That's what I'm going to reflect back on most positively about having been a student at SOM.
I can go next. So relate with a lot of the things that Christian and Axel are saying. I wanted to talk about the space. So if any of you ever get the chance to come to SOM, please do. The building is so beautiful. It is a little different from the rest of Yale, I would say, because when you go to like undergrad Yale, it's a lot of the historical, like older, when you think of like an Ivy League institution, that's what you see. But SOM is like a more modern. Diana actually has, if you're looking at the background that Diana has, that's a little preview of what it looks like. But the space is awesome. Like if you need to prep for any interviews, we have little interview breakout rooms that you can reserve. We also have like really good meeting spaces. So if you have like a club meeting and you need to talk with someone in a room with like a whiteboard, right? Like we have that available. The classrooms are awesome too. We have like all these really neat projectors. So like when professors are going through their lectures, you know, they'll show like 2 or 3 things at a time. Yeah, so facilities are top notch. The courtyard, when the weather's nice, I felt like this year we had a mild winter, which was great because you could go out and have your lunch in the courtyard even when it was like a little bit cold. So yeah, I really love that. And then I did want to talk about the auditorium too. So at Yale we have a tradition. I think a lot of business schools have this tradition, but I think we do it best. So at Yale we have a tradition called Voices. And the concept behind it is every Monday night, I believe it starts at 6 or 7, for about an hour and a half, we will feature 2 to 3 students who then get to share a very personal story of theirs in front of this audience. I was able to participate and really enjoyed the experience as a speaker because it's something that pushed me outside of my comfort zone. And I felt like I was able to connect with classmates that I originally had not connected with, and they related with my story. So that was very special. And yeah, I think, again, please come to campus because if you'll understand what I'm saying once you get to see all of these really neat spots.
Yeah, I echo that. Campus is beautiful. Voices is amazing. Yeah, I love hearing stories from my peers. And it was a mild winter. I definitely looked out. I saw snow for the first time, but definitely for Floridian, it was still pretty cold. Um, just reflecting a little bit on my favorite experiences so far. One that stands out is during Black History Month last year, I was able to organize a like a poetry event. So at Griffin's Pub, it's like an on-campus pub that we go to pretty often. Actually, we host these closing bell events like at the end of the week on a Thursday, typically, where like the class just gets together there and has free drinks sponsored by the school. So it's like a subsidized bar, so drinks are cheap there regardless. And I was able to book a room there and have a poetry event where we had about like 40 or 50 people show up and like just read some poems that they really enjoyed or read some original poems. And it was just like a great time to get people together for a good reason. So that's probably one of my favorites so far.
I love it. And I love hearing about y'all's experiences too. There's so many different unique stories and experiences. And so I know for you all, as you're navigating SOM and trying to get to know it a little bit better, talking to the students is really just a great way to be able to do that, to hear what some of their highlights have been and the way that they've navigated the experience.